Well, it's October. You know what that means. It's time we get into a horror mood. I know some people are gonna be watching horror movies like Nightmare on Elm Street or some shit, I don't know. But for me, it's time to bust out some good ass horror games. You know, I could probably replay great games like Resident Evil, hell, even Dead Space to get in the survival horror mood. Or maybe I should finally play Alan Wake 2 a year later than everyone else. Wait, what? There's a new horror game out? Oh shit! Yes, I've played the Silent Hill 2 Remake. I've actually been extremely interested in this game since they revealed it. I know a lot of people were concerned that it wouldn't be good or not be faithful to the original game. People weren't happy with the development team, Blooper team being on the project due to them apparently not having a good track record. I personally haven't played any of their games to confirm this myself, but I was still interested. For context, I don't have a lot of experience with the Silent Hill franchise. I've only played the original Silent Hill 2 game once years ago, and I don't remember shit about it. I've always heard that it's a masterpiece and one of the best psychological horror games of all time. And I've heard how bad the later games, and especially the films, have been. So this is my first time actually diving into the series, so there will be no nostalgia bias here at all. So after finally finishing the game, is it any good? Well, let's get into it. Silent Hill 2 tells the story of James Sunderland recently receiving a letter from his wife Mary telling him that she is in their special place in Silent Hill, that he promised to take her there again but never did, and that she is waiting for him. Okay, that's all good, but the problem is she's been dead for 3 years from a disease. James questions himself if that she can really be there. After a short walk, James ends up in the cemetery and meets a woman named Angela. After giving Angela a heart attack, James asks her for directions because he is lost and is really foggy out. She points him in the right direction but warns him that Silent Hill is a dangerous place and should be very careful. After ignoring her warning, he proceeds into the town. When he arrives in Silent Hill, he sees someone who clearly doesn't look like a monster and decides to follow it. After finding a radio, James is attacked by that monster. After beating it senseless, James realizes how dangerous this town really is. So James has to try to find Mary and get out of Silent Hill as fast as possible. Starting off with the positives of Silent Hill 2 Remake. The first positive I have with the game is that the feel and the atmosphere of this game is good. It's really good. The entire game, you feel on edge and very uneasy. There are barely any moments of realization in this game, like at all. Like, you can be in an area you know it's safe and like no enemies are in there, but you feel uneasy because you know you won't be safe for long, and something can just jump out at you and like fuck you up or something. Or something weird and disturbing just happens out of nowhere and just fills you with tension just for the fuck of it. You can be in a room and then you hear your radio go off and you're instantly filled with anxiety. You never truly feel safe, and I love that in this game. They really nailed making Silent Hill an area that is truly horrifying to go through. This game is legit terrifying. The game does an amazing job of keeping you horrified while playing the game. The game doesn't really do jump scares, but there are moments where you can be doing something in a room and out of nowhere a monster shows up and scares the shit out of you. The next positive I have with the game are the monsters and the creatures that you encounter in the game. I think all of them are horrifying and unique. There are 3 main enemy types and they each have variations. When you have your radio on, it goes off whenever you're near enemies. Some may say that it ruins the surprise of the enemies, but I think it's good because the radio is basically telling you like something's out there, but you don't know where it is and when it will get to you, so you get tensed up. There's the enemies I like to call the pukers that puke on you and does a lot of damage to you. There's the enemies that has legs for their heads and that are really good at hiding and good at evading attacks. And then there are the nurses that like to do combos with you with weapons. Whenever you encounter an enemy is a horrifying moment that puts you on edge, especially if there's more than one enemy. That is truly terrifying. The scariest one for me was the monster with the legs on their head because they blend in perfectly into the environment and jump at you is horrifying. Like, you can be in a room that you think is safe and then out of nowhere you just get roundhouse kicked in the fucking head by this monster that you didn't even see. It's good. Pyramid Head is an awesome monster in this game, and I loved every encounter with him. I thought he was gonna be like a Mr. X from Resident Evil, but he's not really like that. Yeah, he pops up every once in a while, but he doesn't really actively chase you down, except for like a couple moments in the game. But I think the limited amount of times you see him makes his encounters more memorable. I love what he symbolizes in the game and what he is to James. Like, Pyramid Head is just badass. The next positive I have is the story of the game. The story is really fucking dark, and it can get pretty messed up at points. Like, it goes into depression and how some people deal with it in different ways, and how people see the world after their trauma and all that. And I like how the story is open to many different interpretations and conspiracies. This game can actually fuck with you mentally, and I really enjoyed that about it. The next positive I have is the gameplay itself. I heard many people say that the gameplay is mid, and I disagree. The gameplay reflects the story and the character of James pretty well. James is not Leon or boulder punching Chris from Resident Evil. He's just a regular guy being thrown into this crazy situation where he has to defend himself. Yeah, he can take down enemies, but he's not doing some crazy shit like those two characters. He can use guns and a melee weapon, and he can dodge. The gameplay is really fun, and it can get really tense. There's a limited amount of supplies in the game, so you have to plan ahead on if you're gonna take this enemy down, or you're just gonna run past them to save resources. My technique was to kneecap them and beat the fuck out of them with the pipe to save ammo. Hell, some enemies I didn't even need to use any guns, and I just beat them with the pipe. The gameplay isn't the main focus of the game. They are prioritizing the story they want to tell, but it is still fun to play. The final positive I have with the game is the puzzles. They are good brain teasers, and some of them made me feel like an idiot. They make me take notes on what I needed to do and all that, and I always like that in horror games. Onto the mixed elements of the game. The mixed element I have with the game are the bosses. Now, none of them are bad at all. None of them are like trash or whatever, but in my opinion, barely any of them are like really good, other than like 2 of them. I mean, they're just fine, but I personally think they could be a little bit better. They get the job done. On to the negatives of the game. The first one I have is that sometimes the game stutters pretty badly when there's like too many enemies on screen. Most of my playthrough, it was fine. There were some moments where the game would stutter really bad and it would fuck me up in battle. It did piss me off when I would die from the game stuttering. I've even heard from some people that I talked to that the game lags really bad when they play. For me, it hasn't really gotten that bad, but it is annoying. The next negative I have is that there was a glitch that happened a couple times to me in my playthrough, is that when I would see an enemy, I would like attack it and it wouldn't take damage and it would just like reset itself. I hope the footage makes it clear on what I mean, but it was really weird to encounter this more than once, and there was times where like it would just respawn and kick my ass. Overall, this was a fantastic survival horror game. As someone who isn't nostalgic towards the original, I really enjoyed myself with the game. I am kind of kicking myself in the ass for not really getting into the OG game. This game has surpassed everyone's expectations. A lot of people were expecting the game to fail, and some people even wanted it to fail, but they pulled it off. The game is legit terrifying, and the story is really good and interesting. The gameplay is fun here as well. I think if they just patch out the glitches and the stuttering of the game, it would be way better. So if you're into Silent Hill or survival horror games, I think you'll like this game. That's why I'm gonna give Silent Hill 2 Remake an 8 out of 10. That's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was mid? Like, let me know down in the comments down below. And if you guys like game reviews, I do that all the time on the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.